Hi everyone, thank you again for joining Strathmore's 2021 online workshop series. This is Shelly Kim, also known as Letters by Shells, and I am so excited you are here because in today's lesson, we will be painting fruits and veggies using brush pens. These illustrations can then be turned into fun patterns, which is great for greeting cards, wall art, and so much more. Yay, let's get started. For today's lesson, I'll be using the following supplies. The Lyra Aqua Brush Duo pens, specifically the 36 brush pen set, and the Strathmore Ready Cut watercolor paper in size 5x7, or the Strathmore watercolor cards in the size 5x6. The Princeton Velvetouch round brush size 4, along with a ceramic dish. This is going to be the mixing palette for the pens, and lastly, a cup of water. Before starting the painting process, I'm going to go ahead and sketch out a couple of the illustrations that we'll be painting today. So the carrot itself has this upside down triangle shape along with stems on top of the carrot. The stems could either just be single stroke lines, or it could also have leaves coming out of them as well. And lastly, we'll be adding some details inside the carrot. For the next illustration, it's going to be a lime. So the lime typically will be this like round circle shape, and then I'm going to draw some triangles inside of it. And then inside of the triangles, we'll be adding some lines to create that detail for the lime. This could also be the exact same one if you were to paint a orange or a lemon as well. And the last illustration is going to be an orange, and the orange will just be like a simple round circle, and we're gonna just add some more pigment in certain sections to create that contrast, and then also add some leaves on the top. For the carrot illustration, I'm going to use my brush pens and draw a couple of strokes on the ceramic dish. This is going to be our mixing palette, and I'm going to add the colors orange, yellow, and green. And then using my paintbrush, I'm just going to dip it in water and then start mixing it in the palette. I'm going to go ahead and grab a little bit of the orange color and draw my first stroke for the carrot. So keep in mind it's going to be this upside down triangle shape. So on the left hand side, I'm going to add a lot of pigment and then try to wash it out on the right hand side by adding more water and then adding more pigment inside the carrot shape. So you'll notice that the edges are really pigmented and the center point is going to be a lighter shade, and then I'm going to now fill it in with the yellow pigment and more of the orange pigment as well. And when painting a carrot, make sure at the very end of the carrot, you can either have it go in different directions. I like to add a couple more extra strokes because when you typically look at a carrot in real life, it doesn't always have the most perfect edge at the very bottom. So this next carrot is going to be the mixture of both orange and yellow pigments together. And you'll notice that when you look at this carrot, one side is a little bit more pigmented, and then the right hand side should have this fade effect. And then the last step, I'm just going to add the stems for the carrot. So for the stems, let's go ahead and just draw some single light pressure strokes. And then for the next carrot, I'm going to draw the same upstrokes, but a little bit longer, and then adding a cluster of dots and lines, and also washing it out with water to create that illusion of leaves. And after the carrots have fully dried, I'm now going to add more of the orange pigment on the ceramic dish and just paint some lines inside of the carrot to add more details to the carrot itself. And that's typically it for the carrot illustration. For the lime illustration, I'm going to use two shades of green, a lighter green and a dark green, and start mixing those colors together. And using the very tip of my paintbrush, I'm going to paint a circle. I'm also going to add a dot in the center of the circle just to use as a guide. And using that, I'm going to create these round triangle shapes inside of the circle, and these are going to be the lime slices. And just take your time with this process. It does take some time to draw each of the triangles. And also you can have some of the triangles be a lot larger in size and some of them a lot smaller. After you are all done painting the individual lime slices in the circle, I'm going to mix more of the green pigment on the ceramic dish, and now using the very tip of my paintbrush, I'm going to create these light upstrokes and downstrokes inside of the slices. After the first set of strokes have dried, I'm just going to go back and add a little bit more pigment to add more details inside of it. And I also decided to add a third layer of detail to give it more contrast. And for the orange illustration, I'm going to mix the colors orange and yellow on the ceramic dish and then paint a light circle. But on the left-hand side, I'm going to add more pigment and then wash out the rest of the orange with just water and making the edges a lot more softer. And as it's still wet, I'm going to now add more pigment inside of the circle and add more pigment on the right hand side. So you'll notice that the center point has this fade effect and then the edges are a lot more pigmented. And after your orange has fully dried, I'm now going to draw a light stroke for the stem and then just paint an almond-shaped leaf. This is going to be the same technique that we covered in lesson 1. And there you have it for the orange illustration. Awesome, now that we covered the illustrations of the carrot, lime, and orange, let's go ahead and make our first artwork piece, which is going to be the fruit and veggie pattern. So for this pattern, it's going to be really similar to the one that we painted in lesson 1. I'm going to first start painting the carrot illustration. And after the carrots have dried, now I'm going to add the stems. So with the stems, the carrot on the top and the bottom is going to just have these light strokes, but for the carrot in the center, I'm going to actually add the loose leaves around the stems. And then for our next illustration, we're going to paint a lime towards the bottom left-hand corner. Just drawing the individual lime slices inside. And I'm going to paint another lime on the right-hand side. And just going back and forth and adding some details inside the limes. And for the next illustration, I'm going to paint the orange and I'm going to paint it towards the bottom next to the lime and carrot. And then I'm going to paint another orange on the left-hand side just to help balance out the overall artwork piece and pattern. And after the orange has fully dried, I'm going to now add the stems and leaves for the oranges. And at this point, since I painted all 3 illustrations, I'm going to take a step back and see the areas that have more of the negative space. What other illustrations can I add? And then I'm going to fill that negative space in the top area with a line. And this next step is totally optional, but I love it when patterns have some illustrations that are almost going off the paper. I'm going to first paint an orange on the bottom left-hand corner. And then another orange on the right-hand side. And then I'm going to also add a carrot on the left-hand side. And the reason why I took some time to go back to painting the stems and leaves for the oranges is because I wanted to make sure that it was fully dried. And I did notice that there was another negative space right in the center point area, so I decided to add another carrot. This carrot is going to have the different stems. For this next artwork piece, it's totally optional, but I thought it'd be really fun to create an all over orange pattern. So for the orange illustrations, I'm just painting the oranges first. So for this orange illustration, I'm going to paint some oranges that are more pigmented and some that are a little bit lighter, and this will help create that nice contrast of oranges. So for this next step, I'm going to wait till the oranges are fully dried again, and then now paint the individual stems and leaves for the oranges. Some of the oranges will have a single leaf, or some of them will have 2 leaves. And I'm also going to turn my paper around to help paint more stems and leaves going different directions. So with this artwork piece, I noticed that there was a lot of negative space in between some of the oranges, and I didn't want to paint another orange because I felt that there wasn't going to be enough room. So instead, I started to paint individual leaves and 2 leaves just to help fill in that negative space, and I thought it also added some nice contrast. And these leaves are, again, the same techniques that we covered in lesson 1. And there you have it with the orange pattern. For this last artwork piece, I thought it would be really fun to paint an all over carrot pattern. The first carrot I'll be painting is going to be in the center point area. And then I'm going to turn my paper around and paint one in the bottom right-hand corner. And then another one in the upper left-hand corner. And go ahead and add a few more carrots. Feel free to also paint some carrots that have more pigment than others. And I'm also going to add a few more carrots towards the very edge of the paper, almost like it's going off the paper. And after the carrots have fully dried, I'm going to add some light upstrokes for the stems. And this step is totally optional, but I wanted to create more contrast for some of the carrots, so I'm going to add some details inside the carrots. Not for all of them, but just a couple of them. Yay, there you have it. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson all about painting fruits and veggies using brush pens. I am looking forward to painting with you again in the upcoming class where we will be painting a fun weekly journal spread. Take care and see you then. Bye!